Why do I do this to myself? So much grief, so much exhaustion, so much waste of time and energy. So I'm really quite excited about today's topic because I love anything that can help a business thrive, make my service better, and create happier clients. But as a business owner and entrepreneur, especially in a service-based business, I can say that wholeheartedly the number one thing that has caused me so much grief, so much exhaustion, so much waste of time and energy is crappy clients. Now, I want to fully disclose, when I say crappy clients, I'm not talking about the people per se or what their product or business is. I'm just saying that these are clients you shouldn't work with because they're going to make you feel like crap. They make the whole outcome crap, and it makes you feel like doing business is crap. A lot of these people aren't outright rude or outrageous, but it's something that you can tell is very much in the undertone of their consistent nagging, asking, and deliberate complaining or criticizing. And these are people you just don't want to work with altogether. But the hardest thing can be identifying them beforehand. Situationally, once you're in there, you're like, man, I really wish I wasn't, but now you got to stick it out and deal with it. But I want to teach you today some of my proprietary information, personally, right out of my own training book for myself and my team, of ways that you can identify them, decide early on whether or not they're the right fit, and back out if they're not. I absolutely love creating systems for myself and my team because systems equal formulas that tell us what we can and cannot do. It eliminates the whole exhaustive overthinking and analyzing and repetitive decision making. When it comes to crappy clients who don't deserve your attention in the first place, this is a great system to implement. Now, I want to state another disclosure, which is if you are first starting out and just building your business, you deal with a little bit of the crappiness just to make somebody happy and build your portfolio and have work that you can showcase to new clients as you continue to grow your service. There's a really fine line between getting high and mighty and turning your nose up to everything versus drawing boundaries for yourself, especially when you have an established business and a full schedule. Now, my last disclaimer before we get into this, and I promise it's my very last, but hey, I'm exercising what I'm about to show you, is that my line of work is a service-based job in which I create content, both spokesperson and fitness and yoga content for other brands, companies, and businesses that are more specifically looking for video media to help promote their brand, business, or product. So that should just give you a little bit of an idea of what clients I'm looking at and how the process actually works. But this will apply to anybody in a service-based industry that deals with clients one-on-one. So the first thing that I have to share with you is my flagging system. We have a yellow, orange, red flag system, which kind of indicates to us the score in which we give our clients. Every client comes in starting off as a green flag unless there's something that indicates they're not. And while most crappy clients work their way up to a red flag through this flagging system, there are some clients who go straight to red flag ranking if they're rude, they tell us what our prices are, or if they're just straight up against our values and code of ethics. So number two, let's talk about these flags and what works their way up the flagging system. The first is asking for discounts. Now, I'm not above giving somebody a discount, but it's often in the way that it's asked. If somebody comes in and straight up disrespects or criticizes my pricing or my services, this goes straight to red flag. It's just extremely rude. But there's another case where somebody might say, hey, I'm not sure how this works, if you apply discounts and such, but this is our budget and this is what we need to meet. Is there any way you can work with that? This person is inquiring. They are not telling, and they're doing it in a very diplomatic and respectful way. For somebody like this, they still might get issued like what I call a mini yellow flag, just kind of a heads up. But as long as there's no further indicators of additional flags, then they can stay in the green zone and we will still work with them. Now, whether or not we give them a discount, that's completely subjective to the situation itself. It just all really depends on what the project entails and what we can or cannot give. The second yellow flag will be asking for freebies or free anything or just throw it in, just include it. We provide ample amounts of portfolio examples and our service base comes in packages. So you really know what you're gonna get by looking through the dozens and dozens of examples that we provide. So we don't do work for free and we're not looking to audition for additional work, mainly because we have so much interest coming in that this would be a complete waste of our time. Another flag that I see pretty commonly, and it's usually coupled with one or two, is promises of future work. So the way that our flagging system goes is if they hit one of these, they're in the yellow zone. If they hit 2 and 3, they're in orange. And then when they hit 4 or 5, they get into the red ranking. So when somebody comes in and says, hey, can you give me a 20% discount because I'm gonna have so much future work for you, automatically they skip into the orange zone. Now it's obvious if somebody hits the red flag, they're pretty much done. They're not a right fit. It's not something that I really wanna negotiate or have to deal with moving forward. But I'm gonna tell you what to do with the orange flags here in a bit. Let's just finish the additional flags. Sometimes we're talking to clients and they have expressed interest, but they don't know exactly what they want. This is a yellow flag for us. And oftentimes they're going in circles, talking about ideas. And when we try to go through the steps of asking for clear information, it doesn't get any clearer. If anything, it gets muddier and muddier because they're talking so much but nothing about the project itself. For my service specifically, because we do not act as a consulting firm, we require our clients to come in with their set of requirements in order for us to take on their project. You might have consultation wrapped up in your service, so this is a point where you would have to direct them to a consultation appointment in which they pay for or schedule at a different time. So I've saved the cringeworthy, or what I would consider my least favorites, for last. And one of those is adding stuff after a project's been quoted or after the invoice has been paid. Sometimes there are certain clients with different expectations that think negotiations are still on the table even after the quote has been given or the invoice has been closed. Oftentimes when you're further into a project and a client asks for more, it's much easier to say, yes, we can do that, but it'll cost more, or no, we can't, and draw your boundaries there because they're so well invested into the project already. But when it comes to just receiving the first payment or just quoting, I'm not against still labeling a client as not a good fit despite the fact that we've made agreements, especially if this client is trying to renegotiate agreements under the same payment terms. Which leads me to the last cringeworthy flag I'm gonna share with you today, and sometimes it gets coupled after this one I just mentioned, which is that they diminish my tasks or line of work. I've literally had people ask me to throw in an extra photo because all I need to do is just push a button anyways. This obviously goes hand in hand with criticizing my service or disrespecting my line of work, and it turns into an immediate red flag right away. And these immediate red flags have been placed here not because I'm above forgiving people or being understanding, but because it's been pretty consistent that when people show this type of behavior, they're highly likely to be difficult clients to deal with in the long run. So I have a clarifying afterthought, which is the reason these clients become difficult is when they make statements like, all you have to do is push a button anyways. It clearly indicates that they don't understand the value as well as the amount of effort that you actually have to put into work. They're not on the same page, so their expectations are way over here when reality is way over here. And this is what causes the challenge and the difficulty between these types of clients. Whew. So we got those flags out of the way, and hopefully they help you get a little more clear on what behaviors or patterns of behavior clients can showcase when indicating that they are a crappy client or somebody who's going to be extremely exhausting and long-winded to work with. Now, I want to be really clear here. I have some challenging clients. I'm not saying that every client is going to be a breeze. It's just that these flags have been developed from my own personal experience based on any time I tend to give somebody a chance and overlook the flags, I end up having a terrible time. Not just a bad time, an absolute terrible time. We're talking about litigations and further issues, people cuss bombing and just getting out of control. It is not always the case. Of course, it doesn't always get that far. We do everything that we can to diffuse the situation, but that potentiality and just dealing with that negativity and that kind of energy is not something that I like to mess with. Okay, so we're here at the third stage of identifying our clients. And that third part of our process is pre-qualifiers and re-qualifiers. So what pre-qualifiers are is a set of actions or steps that we take to vet our clients, meaning we have them do things that they don't really know is actually vetting them, but it's putting them in categories before they even start working with us so that we can become aware of which client has a potentiality for being a good client, being part of this project, being a long-term client, or being somebody that we don't want to work with. So the first step for pre-qualifications is we put our clients through an application process. Sometimes clients will lie on this application process, which is a red flag after that. It is really crazy what people will do sometimes, but if you stay on top of these things, I think it's much less of a stress to have clients pre-qualified and vetted and even have to draw boundaries and say no than going through the whole process because you're trying to be nice, you're trying to save a sale, and it just ends up being a complete waste of time and energy. Number two, we include appropriate disclaimers throughout all points of contact. And it's going to seem really redundant, especially if you're working with dozens and dozens of people like we do. But every single time we do certain points like agree to an extra add-on or task item, agree to a quote, answer certain questions, we always follow up with certain disclaimers. An example of this is if somebody says, "Hi, can you do this on a kitchen backdrop?" Our main spokesperson service comes with a green screen in which they can select a kitchen backdrop. And of course, we want to say yes and create as little friction as possible. So we would say, yes, we can do this on a green screen kitchen backdrop. However, and here comes the disclaimer, if you need a real live kitchen backdrop, it will cost you this extra. It's going to be really important for you to pay attention to, keep in mind, and note down which points of friction clients typically tend to have, or points of confusion where clarification is needed. You can reduce a lot of friction and make the communication seamless and enjoyable for your client by having these disclaimers and clarifications beforehand, in addition to setting clear expectations for what your service actually offers and what's included with their project. Last but not least, before actually accepting payment from our clients, we require them to sign disclaimers and contract documents. This is a great way to say, this was on paper, you signed it, you agreed to this is why we're sticking to the script. Despite the fact that we may have verbally communicated and we have emails and emails saying that yes, we can do this, no, we can't, or it would cost more, we still put it in the contract. Again, it's another ounce of redundancy, but because there's so much information and so much on their mind as well as yours, sometimes people only selectively hear what they're saying yes or agreeing to. So this is a way to confirm for sure and for all. And even when we issue the contract, we issue another disclaimer and say, hey, before you send the payment, before you sign this contract, make sure you read every single word. That way you've covered all your bases and it's in the client's court to make sure they do their due diligence to understand exactly what they're expecting from this project and exactly what you've agreed upon. Now, quick tip on this entire process is just don't go off script. It is so rare that I make exceptions when people start flagging themselves. And I will admit there's two off the top of my head that have gone off script and it's actually gone really well. But them by themselves have not been able to make up for the amount of crappy clients I would have had to deal with if I went off the script all the time. Most of the time, it's not the case and it's not worth it. And there definitely have been way more times I've gone off the script and I've thought to myself, why do I do this to myself? I try to be nice. I want to do a good thing. I want to put faith in people, but I didn't trust the process of our flagging system. And now I'm paying for it severely. So the last thing I want to talk about is those orange flags. We have a requalifying process, which is just a little bit more light, that help us identify whether someone really is an orange, potentially red flag, or they were a yellow, kind of confused, and so they're an orange flag, and they can still be a valuable client. So orange flags can requalify themselves back to a green flag if they can do one of three things. They can confirm that they understand what the terms are, they can take an action that we ask them to do, or they can agree to the disclaimers moving forward. So what this can look like is sometimes you might be working with somebody who's new or who's not used to business. So they just come in all guns blazing hot and they're like, hey, can you give me a discount? And I want to throw this. And I don't really know what I want, but you're the expert. You can tell me what to do. And we're like, whoa, slow down. Like yellow, orange, red flag. What is going on here? And you can kind of catch that vibe when somebody's really exuberant, but they don't really know what's going on. And we could say, hey, first, we need you to list out all the things you need. If you can answer these 5 questions, we can get started understanding what your project is and building a quote for you. If they can go ahead and do that and they're completely all in, like, oh yeah, absolutely, they get it back to us right away, they're asking questions, they seem very open-minded, we will start to reduce the amount of yellow flags that have accumulated on their ranking. Sometimes people have paid their invoice, the order is open, and they're saying, oh, by the way, I just thought of this, can you add this thing? If we say, yeah, sure, we definitely can, but it's gonna cost X, Y, and Z to your order, and they say, go ahead, send me the invoice for that, then they stay in the green zone. So not all yellow flags are permanent yellow flags, and not all flagged clients mean they're going to be crappy clients. But I hope that in sharing my system with you, this can help you reduce the amount of exhaustion and analytical conflict that you might experience when it comes to vetting your clients. Overall, I'd love to hear if you think I'm missing anything from this list in your experience. Share it with the community below. Hit thumbs up if you like information like this, and subscribe for more ways to get to your next level of energy, life, business, you name it. I'm here for you, and I'll catch you in the next video. Ciao.